Hi, everybody! Greetings from the Great White North. um, as some of you know, I moved to Massachusetts. I moved on Christmas Eve, which is why I am currently, I don't know if you can tell, I'm currently in a hotel room. um, just until the sale or the closing of my new house goes through. So I'm kind of hoboing it for a little bit. Actually not. It's a really nice hotel. But I'm currently snowed in. Thanks, Winter Storm Grayson. We had like a foot of snow outside, and I kind of figured, well, I'm stuck inside. There's nothing I can really do. I haven't like dug my car out yet, so what better way to spend the time than finally making this video that I promised everybody, like back in October, told everybody I was gonna make a video answering writing questions, and then life got in the way. Whoops. But I have the ones that people have asked me. And before anybody comments and asks, yes, it's cold. It's cold. The wind chill is like, I think it's supposed to feel like -22. Yeah, it's like the actual temperature is like 14 or 7 or something at night. And then it's supposed to feel like 22. -22, sorry. -22. So yeah, I'm cold. But it's okay, I'm inside. My dog is currently on the bed, just lounging. He's not concerned about the weather at all. So the first few questions, and this video might be kind of long because I've owed so many people video answers in video form, like I promised. So I apologize in advance. If you don't want a long video, just go ahead and skedaddle. So the first question is from a Facebook friend, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Well, you're a real life friend too, but you asked this on Facebook. Do you write daily? Do you write as inspiration strikes? Do I outline first? What is your process? My process is to not scream too loud so that the cops get called on me. No, that's not my process. I do scream at my computer sometimes. No, I don't write daily, simply because I can't. Life happens, as you can tell. I mean, I'm living in a hotel right now, waiting to finish buying a new house, and sometimes you just can't. Like, there's only 24 hours in a day. They haven't changed that. I don't have a time turner, so I can't go back in time. Like, I can't manipulate my schedule the way that I wish I could. But I write when inspiration strikes, which also can be a little bit complicated because I cannot tell you how many times I have canceled on people because I wanted to write. Sorry. Yeah, I have. I've legitimately been like, oh, I'm sick, and I just stay home and I write. I don't do that very often anymore because now it's less of a hobby and more of a profession. Like, this is my life. This is what I do. So it's not as taboo for me to be like, I'm not gonna go. I'd rather stay home and write. Yeah, so but I don't write on a daily basis. I try to schedule about 3 times a week to write. Sorry, this video might get interrupted by like me hearing people in the hallway because it's a hotel. Yeah, no, I write when I can, when I have the opportunity. I feel like I'm looking down. Sorry, guys. I try to schedule about 3 times a week for me to write. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I get to write more. Sometimes I have like 2 solid weeks of nothing and I can just plug it on out. And that's honestly the best. I love that. But yeah, no, my process, I mean, if you're talking about like what I do on days that I know I'm going to be writing, I think it depends. I wake up, make coffee, because I'm 98% caffeine. So otherwise I just don't function. That's why I have this. Yeah, I make a solid breakfast, take my dog out, I shower sometimes. And then I really, around noon, 11 o'clock to noon is when I'm really sitting down and I'm plugging away at it. But on days that I'm not writing, not actually like putting words on paper, I'm still creating. I'm still thinking about my work. I'm still doing stuff. So I feel like, and that's also part of the writer's job, is you're not only writing, you're daydreaming, you're planning, you're experiencing life too, because you have to. Like, that's also part of it. You have to be a part of the world to then come back and make your world believable. So mini tip to, like, just put an asterisk there, mini tip to other writers: go outside. Maybe not now because it's freezing, but go outside and experience life. Talk to your friends, call your mom, pet your dog or cat or snake or alpaca or whatever pet you have. Pet them, love them, be outside with your loved ones, go to a movie, read something that you've been wanting to read for a really long time and haven't. Just, be a part of the world, because that's going to make you feel refreshed and more, feel like you've actually accomplished something and want to get back to your work. And it'll make you miss your work too. I found that, like, when I'm not writing a lot, I end up missing it after a while. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but that's pretty much my process. Next question. Do you write? Oh, I answered that one already. How do you come up with your stories? Do you plan what happens, or does it come to you while you're writing? Oh boy. I feel like I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I think all writers are weirdos, but I'm kind of a weirdo in that I don't come up with a plot line first. I come up with character, or I don't even come up with them. I feel like characters visit me. Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like being visited. And I get these characters that pop up, and it feels like I'm eavesdropping on dialogue. Oh, hi, puppy. Are you gonna come over? You gonna come say hi? Oh, thank you. He was on the bed, and I guess he just was like, oh, I want to come say hi too. Oh, what's going on? And he's out looking out the window. Okay. Where were they? Oh, I feel like I get visited by characters. I feel like I'm eavesdropping on dialogue. It's like sticking my head in a room that I don't really know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I just hear people talking, and I'm like dictating it. And it's not so much me coming up with things so much as I feel like I'm like running after these characters. Like, wait, hold on, no. What did you do? What do you mean you had? Oh, hi, and you're coming from this side too. Oh, thanks. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks. Hi. Do you want to have a seat? You can sit down. He's not sure. He doesn't know. Yeah, I feel like I'm like chasing them, going, wait, hold on, you had what's going on? You said what? You already had this meeting with somebody. I feel like I'm dictating, or taking dictation, not so much as creating it. I don't force characters to do things. I just follow them around and take notes. But in terms of, sorry, it's on my phone and it keeps like moving. Do I plan? I do. I know writers who plot every single chapter. Hi, baby. Hi. I know. Hello. I know authors that. Thank you. My hand is good. No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I have. Ooh, I just totally shoved my finger in your mouth. I have author friends, and I know other authors who plot non-stop. You're stealing the show, bud. like they have every single spot, like every single plot point already mapped out. Like they know exactly how their character gets from point A to point B to point Z, and they're done. I'm not that way. I wish I could be. I have a friend, Frances. Hi, Frances. She knows pretty much everything when she's starting on a project, and she's extremely efficient that way, and her stuff is fantastic. That's just not me. I have never been able to completely plot out anything like solidly ever. And I wish I could, but I can't. So, oh well. I do know I call them like touchstones. Like I do know, okay, character has to get from this point to this point to this point. And it's like connect the dots. It's like a connect the dots game. And you just have to kind of, the fun is when you have to figure out, okay, well, I know that this and this have to happen, but how does it happen? That's kind of the real fun for me. So, but it also is incredibly frustrating because sometimes you're like, I don't know. Like you know that something has to happen. You have no clue how it's gonna make it, like how they make that jump. So that's when that's when the screaming starts. I should really stop closing out the thing. I mean, I think a lot of it does come to me when I'm writing, especially dialogue for sure comes to me as I'm writing. And if a section of dialogue feels stilted, if it feels awkward, if I feel like it's leading the plot in a direction that doesn't feel authentic, then I change it. But for the most part, I kind of just let the characters do what they're doing and go with it and hope for the best. But then I've written entire chapters that I then have to cut out and rewrite and change and go, okay, well, this happened way too soon. But that's the editing process. That's not the true creative process. Why did I choose to self-publish? Oh boy. The person who asked the question says that they would like to self-publish, but they feel like they're not as good of a self-promoter. I totally get that. Self-promotion is hard. It's a lot of... Okay, well, hold on, let me back up. So, I chose to self-publish because I tried the traditional route. I just wasn't really happy with the entire process. I felt like it was more draining and more stressful than what I wanted it to be. And I still very much respect the traditional publishing route. I think that there's a lot of antiquated views currently in publishing. So, sorry, getting like text messages too. I think there are a lot of antiquated views in traditional publishing that self-publishing can kind of circumvent. If you have a story, any story, it doesn't matter what it is, it can be any sort of medium, if you feel like it has an audience, more than likely it does. So with self-publishing, you're more so just saying, I made a thing, I'm going to put it out there, I really hope people like it. And with traditional publishing, you're kind of letting other people dictate what has an audience. So it's a little bit more markets and graphs and advertising, and it's more, do they think that this has any sort of platform whatsoever? Which is valid. That's totally valid. They're in a business to make money. We're all in a business to make money. But they have a set way of making money that has worked for them for a while. It's starting to not work as well. We'll get into that later. So, you know, they have this view of this is what will make us money, this is what we can sell. If your story doesn't fit into that, if it's a space opera with squirrels, I don't know, I'm just pulling something out of my ass. But if it's a space, if you wrote a space opera with squirrels, and you tried to traditionally publish that, it's quite possible that the majority of publishing companies would be like, there's like 5 people who would read this. However, I would bet that there's probably like 5,000 people who would read that, myself included. And you just, it's more of a risk when you self-publish. You're really, I mean, you're doing the work. you you create your platform. You have to, I mean, you have to either beg your the help of or hire editors and people who will create your cover. I'm incredibly lucky. I'm friends with amazing graphic artists. I'm friends with amazing editors and beta readers, and I have just an amazing circle of friends who wanted to help me put this thing out there. So that is not the typical case. Normally you have to hire somebody to help you. Again, we'll talk about that later. But in terms of choosing to self-publish, it's a goal of mine to have my own indie publishing company that doesn't quite fit into the traditional, like, I don't want to work for a big publishing house. I've never wanted to work for a big publishing house. I want to own my own production and publishing company, and I want to figure it all out. I am very much a sink or swim person. So for me, it made more sense to just dive in head first, feet first, belly flop into the pool and kind of figure it out as I'm doggy paddling my way through, as opposed to waiting for other people to take my hand and guide me. I don't really like the take the hand and guide. Now I do ask lots of questions and I do have lots of interesting kind of like, oh, I feel like I've been doing this wrong for the last 6 months. Okay. And you change it up. But that's where having a circle of friends or a networking circle comes in. You don't have to know everything with self-publishing. You don't even have to know how to freaking put the ebook on Kindle. Like, you can find people who do. It's not about knowing everything before you start out. It's about having the perseverance and the determination to continue. And I'm not saying that I don't have my off days. I do. I have lots of them, and it's hard. It's there's a reason that most people prefer to have their stuff traditionally published, because when you're self-publishing, okay, you made the thing, great, you wrote the book, awesome. So you wrote the book. Now you have to edit the book or find somebody who will help you edit it. And then you have to come up with a cover, and there are stock photo options. I mean, you can do the Photoshop stuff, but if you want to make, like, actually have a kind of a real cover, you have to hire an artist, or you have to find somebody who will work with you. You can draw it yourself, but you have to then be able to translate that online. So you have to do that. You have to figure out your marketing prices. You have to do, I mean, if you're using if you're using more mainstream platforms of self-publishing, the legalities aren't really something that you have to look into right away. Don't overlook them, though. Just, tip. Don't overlook those. But you're taking on the role of, you're not just the author. You are now the editor. You are the graphic designer. You are the publisher. And you are also marketing and advertising. So that means that you have to do stuff like social media. Now, I actually really enjoy social media. I enjoy Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and Tumblr. That stuff is fun for me. I recognize it is not always fun for other people. And a lot of artists feel uncomfortable plugging their own stuff. I get that. Yeah. I mean, you have to plug your stuff, but then you don't have to only plug your stuff, because then you just seem like you're screaming into the void and it kind of comes off as douchey. So you have to kind of cultivate, not a following, like, it doesn't matter how many people follow you. You just have to be able to say, hey, I did this thing, here it is. You have to step out on that ledge and let people know that you actually did something. You can't write it, like, publish it on Kindle and then leave it. Like, that's not how it works. You can't get sales that way. I have still found, though, that word of mouth is the best way to get your stuff out there. And being around other people who have made art. Like, become friends with other writers, become friends with artists, become friends with, creative people of all kinds, because, okay, no, you don't have to only be friends with writers. Like, if you're a writer, you don't only have to be friends with writers. In fact, I would suggest that you become friends with people who aren't writers. Become friends with readers. Become friends with people who they have monthly book clubs. Go to networking circles with just creative types. Talk to film directors. Talk to executive producers. Talk to screenwriters. Talk to special effects, costumers. Talk to theater people. Get out of your comfort zone a little and talk about your stuff to other people who are also nervous about talking about their stuff. Because that makes it feel a little more organic, and it doesn't feel like you're standing in a room with other authors talking about your books. Because that feels self-indulgent, and it feels elitist, and I don't know. There's a lot about it that honestly drives me nuts. And so I don't really do that. Yeah. So I totally understand the fear behind being concerned about self-publishing and not feeling like you're a good enough self-promoter. It gets easier. You can do it, though. I promise. I promise you can do it. And don't worry about sales right away. Like, I know we're all in this to make money. I get it. It's a great day when I sell a book. It makes me feel really awesome. But don't worry so much about the sale as much as be proud of the step that you took to have your work out there. Be proud of the fact that you put your manuscript out into the world for people to see. Be proud of the fact that you wrote it. First of all, be proud of the fact that you wrote a thing. You wrote something. Holy shit. Do you know how many people I talk to on a regular basis who are like, I wish I could be an author? Exactly. Like, you did the thing that so many people wish that they could do, or that they lament that they didn't do. So the fact that you have already accomplished step one is brilliant. That's amazing. Celebrate that. Have a glass or 8 of wine and celebrate the fact that you wrote a book or a collection of short stories, or you finished that really awful, you finished a collection of poems that you felt were giving you hell, or whatever the case may be. You still did it, and that's awesome. So don't worry, don't get caught up in the what ifs and the I'm not gonna make money at this. Don't worry about that. It'll get better, and you will start to sell your book, I promise. You just take it one step at a time. So don't worry about self-promotion first. Worry about finishing the thing that you are going to promote, and then you can worry about everything else later. Yeah, but I totally get it, and it's hard, and it's really scary, and sometimes you just, you don't want to talk to people online. I get it. Twitter is a hellscape, and it's like a cesspool of everybody just yelling and talking about how terrible women are and people of color, and yeah, just stay in your corner with your fluffy cat videos and holiday cookie recipes. That's what I do. I'm like, I'm very much over here. I talk to my 4 friends, and I stick to my fandom niceties. That's pretty much all I do. Last question. Let's see. Oh no, not the last question. I have more questions than I realized. Oh, there we go. Okay, gosh. Technical difficulties. How do you go about writing with someone else, especially if you have your own unique voice in the story? So, I don't know if I talk about the fact that it's in the works, but I'm currently writing, not really currently because I haven't written on it in quite a few months, but there is a project that I plan on finishing with a friend where we're co-writing a book series, which is a much different beast than writing something by yourself. How do you write something with someone else? Well, first of all, you got to check your ego at the door. Like, you have to. There's no space for feeling like your version of the story is the only version of the story. Like, that's not true. Like, that's not real. There are multiple versions of the story, and it's more about, so yeah, check your ego at the door. Leave it. Just leave it behind. What you focus on is the thread of authenticity in your story. So you might, I mean, and this has happened with the friend of mine that I am currently writing a series with. You both have ideas of what a scene should look like. So I also would suggest plotting a little bit more. If you're co-writing with somebody, plotting out stuff and outlining is going to be way more beneficial. If you're writing by yourself, you can kind of just sit at your computer and be like, doo, 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 doo. Sorry, Tumblr is like, ding. I don't even know if people can hear that. I can hear it, so I assume that you guys can hear it. Yeah, I mean, if you're at your computer just plugging away at stuff, that's one thing. But if you're working with somebody else, you kind of have to know where the story is going for you to even have a productive system. So you should really plot out, okay, I've got, we have plot points A through E, and we have to figure out where that goes and how they get there. It's easier if you already kind of have an understanding of who the characters are, what they would and would not do, and if you already know where you want your story to end up. Because then, I mean, the series that I'm working on with my friend, it's probably going to be like 3 or 4 books. So that's a lot of material. So as long as we know where book 1 ends and where book 2 starts and then where book 3 goes, like you can kind of carry on. But you have to really know your characters. And sometimes you're going to have an idea for a character and the other person is going to have an idea for a character and they're going to be completely different. And that's okay. But here's where you have to check this is the whole reason you have to check your ego at the door, is because you might not have the best idea for the character. So you have to be able to say, okay, well, I thought this is what so-and-so would do. I think I'm wrong. And you have to be okay with being wrong. If you can let people take the reins, don't be a control freak. Don't be a control freak. It's not attractive on anybody. So if you can appreciate that the other person has written something that is actually way better for your character, that is going to keep the story going, and that's going to keep everything good. And it's all about finding the truth in the story. So yeah, you might want a character to like pull out, 18 different guns and just blast everybody away on some sort of spaceship. I don't know, I'm rambling. But, you might have this like cool fight scene idea for this character, while your partner might be going, well, it might be more subtle than that. It might be more of an internal thing instead of an external. And if that feels more genuine to the character, you have to let your idea go. And you have to say, nope, I like yours better. Let's go with that. And I think it's really hard for people to do. Like, for me, I'm not particularly precious about my work. I sometimes feel there's a few things that I'm very like, I will not change this. But for the most part, if somebody says, hey, I don't think this is working, or I'm not so sure about this, I have no qualms about cutting it or editing it or changing it or trashing it completely. So I think if you're working with someone else on a project, you have to get to that level of like, okay, this doesn't work. Let's change it. And being okay with saying you're wrong, which I think is a life lesson for a lot of people. A good writing partnership is also like a really good marriage. You can talk about stuff and you feel comfortable and you feel safe. and you don't have to worry about the other person plagiarizing your work or running off with it or, you know, effectively cheating on you with other authors or other people. Anyway, yeah, and I mean, if your voices are completely different, then you might want to look into either coming up with some sort of way of blending the two. So like if one person writes in a completely different way, or if they just have a completely different idea for the story that doesn't even like, you're not even dovetailing, you're not even jiving at any point, that's when you part ways. But if it's more of like one person resonates with one character really well and then the other person resonates with a different character really well, you can kind of like, you can work with that. But yeah, if you're completely not working out, then just like a relationship, go on and find greener pastures. Nobody sue me for bad relationship advice either. I think this might be the last one. Yes, okay. Someone said, I'm trying so hard to make my idea work, but that there's almost no joy in it anymore. Sometimes I feel like I'm a fraud because I have no ideas, and maybe because of that I can't or shouldn't write. How do you keep yourself excited about your idea and your book while you're writing it? Oh boy. Do I feel that? Well, first of all, welcome to being a writer. Literally every writer has felt like a fraud at some point. All of us. At some point or another, we have all gone, I'm a fraud. I'm an idiot. I can't do this. This is terrible. That is not actually the case. That's called self-doubt. And those voices tend to be incredibly loud. And we tend to have them at 3 o'clock in the morning by ourselves in our rooms with no one there to tell us to climb down off the ledge. So, which is great. It's super fun. You're not a fraud. Let me just say that right now. You are not a fraud. Simply because you don't have any more ideas, that doesn't mean you're never going to have another idea. It means that you don't have an idea right now, and that's okay. You are still a writer. If you have written anything ever, you're a writer. And you don't have to validate that to anybody. You don't have to qualify it. You don't have to give us a list of, hey, look, here's all the things I've written. No. If you're a writer, you're a writer. And if you feel like a writer, you're a writer. And nobody can take that from you. Nobody. So I don't even care if you just like to write really pretty grocery lists. Hey, if they're in haiku, then you're a writer. If somebody writes their grocery lists as haikus or poems, please send them to me because that would make me really happy. You're a writer because you write things, or you enjoy playing with characters, either your own or not your own. If you write fan fiction, you are still a writer, friend, because you are putting words on paper and you are doing the thing that other people don't do. So you're still a writer, I promise. Our society tends to focus so much on productivity, and you need to be a productive member of society and blah, blah, blah. All right, well, settle down, Susan. Everybody knows that the creative process it's a fickle beast, and sometimes you create a ton and sometimes you create nothing. I mean, I moved 9 states away and I have all this free time because I'm not working. I mean, at an office job or anything. And I still haven't written that much. I mean, I've written some, but not a ton. It's not like I'm sitting here writing a crap ton of the second book. It's because life happens and sometimes your muses need a break. And if you have been doing a lot of, emotional stuff, if your life is just stressful, if stuff has just been going on, your muses have a tendency to be like, we're gonna be in the corner. We're gonna wait for your life to kind of settle down just a little bit before we come rushing back in with, hey, what if that guy is also that guy's brother? Plot point. So your brain has to rest. You have to rest. If you've been sick, people with chronic illnesses, or just, it's flu season, y'all. If you're sick, it's okay to be sick, and it's okay to not create while you're sick. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to just not want to. Like, seriously, there are some days where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. I have all the time in the world, and you know what I really want to do? I want to Netflix and chill with myself. And this. Like, I want coffee and Netflix. That's what I want to do, and I think that's okay. You have to allow yourself that. When you, I mean, I know there are tons of people who are on deadlines, people who feel like they need to have something out by a certain time. If it's a self-imposed deadline, okay, I'm still going to be that person that tells you you don't have to reach that deadline. If you're writing for work, you probably should reach that deadline, because that's how traditional publishing works. Or if you're at an office and you have to write for stuff, yeah, your job kind of takes precedence, but it's okay if you're not really feeling it. So don't put too much pressure on yourself, and you are not a fraud. An artist is still an artist, whether or not they have painted or anything. If you have done it and you enjoy it and it speaks to your soul, then you are that thing. If you write and you enjoy writing and it really speaks to you, you're a writer. If you're an artist and you paint or sculpt or draw or whatever, and you feel like that speaks to you, you're an artist. And nobody's going to take that from you. And if they do, you send them to me. So I'm straight. Auntie Lawrence here. She gonna tell somebody something. So don't feel like just because you're not actively constantly producing something that you are not a writer. Also, take time to fall back in love with the process. I had to like come up with other ideas that I don't plan on publishing, at least for the next like 5 years, but that I got to toy with and play with and kind of fall back in love with the process and with what it is to be a writer for me. Because sometimes you get bogged down with people asking when the next book is out and asking how things are going, and you get asked the same 18,000 questions every day, and you just have to go, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then, mentally be like, I'm gonna murder you. But I know people mean it out of love, so I'm not upset. It's just that kind of thing sometimes stresses people out, and it makes it really difficult to be creative and be productive, because it feels like this noise, this chatter in your head of like, oh my god, so many people are waiting for book 2. Oh my god, so many people are waiting for this project. People are waiting for my next gallery opening, blah, 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 blah. And it fucks you up. So just take a break from that. Don't worry about it. Step away, or find something that is still in your artist genre or not in your artist genre. Something creative that can kind of make you fall back in love with your why. Find your why and fall back in love with it. So my why is that I can't see myself doing anything else. And in fact, I'm actually really shitty at everything else. So it's like, it's this or bust. Look, I either make it at this or I marry rich. Like, that's all. Those are my 2 options, folks. And yeah, I don't think I would do too well marrying rich. So that's my why. My why is that I can't imagine doing anything else, and I don't love anything else the way that I love writing. If that's similar to your why, great. You have to find your why, and you have to stick with it, and sometimes you'll lose sight of your why, and you get to kind of romance yourself back into being creative, which can be fun. It can also be really frustrating, but Also treat writing like a relationship. Man, there's like a lot of correlations between writing and relationships. Yep. Makes sense though. But treat it like something that you hold very dear, and remember why, and kind of, you want to have that 50-year anniversary of why we've been together this long. Why have you been a writer this long? Well, because it feeds my soul in a way that nothing else does. And there you go. There you have it. So don't be discouraged. I totally understand. Welcome to life. Welcome to being human. Welcome to being creative. It happens, but I promise you, you are not a fraud. You are not a fraud. You are not incapable of creating more things. And if a particular project is driving you nuts, then maybe walk away from it for a little while. Don't abandon it completely, unless you feel like it's really not worth your time. But take some time away from it and then come back to it. But don't feel like you're not a real writer or a real creator simply because you're not pumping out novel after novel after novel after novel after novel. And I actually know people, and I'm friends with people who they write like a novel a month. Looking at you, Jake Bible. And I don't know how they do that. Like, I don't know. Like, every time I yeah, I wish I could. I wish I could do that. I cannot. And I've just accepted that. But I don't consider myself a fraud because I don't have 18 books out in a year, I consider myself a writer who has a completely different process than other people. So that's something that we all have to kind of accept too. So anyway, I think that was the last question. I really hope all of that. Yes, that was the last question. I really hope all of that helped you guys. I hope that it was worth the wait. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be doing more of these on a more regular basis. I might actually do one tomorrow as well, simply because more questions have come up and more people want to know things from me. So I might, or maybe I'll do one later this afternoon. I'll just knock them all out. Just go for it. I don't know. I'm bored and snowed in, and I have nothing better to do. So then talk to you guys. But I really hope all of that helped. I hope that was enlightening or helpful or encouraging on some level, in some way, shape, or form. Odin says bye. I'm assuming he says bye. He's asleep on my bed. But I'm glad you guys got to see him. Came into the video. Yeah, I hope you all stay safe and warm, and go cuddle your favorite living creature who also wants to be cuddled. And I will talk to you all later. Bye!